What if the greatest way to hurt a narcissist isn't through arguments, proof, or even standing your ground, but by doing nothing at all? Think about it. Confrontation only feeds them. They thrive when you're caught in their storm because every word, every reaction gives them fuel. But what happens when you go silent? When your absence, not your anger, becomes the loudest response? For someone who survives on attention like oxygen, being ignored can feel like suffocation. Could it be that the very act of withholding yourself is more devastating than any confrontation could ever be? Narcissists often leave people exhausted, drained, and tangled in endless battles for control. We're taught to fight back, to defend ourselves, to argue our case until the truth is undeniable. But the truth rarely matters to a narcissist. What matters to them is the energy you give. That's why this question is so important. Does ignoring them cut deeper than standing up to them? In this video, we'll explore why silence can sometimes be the sharpest weapon, how it shifts the balance of power, and what it teaches you about strength, patience, and self-mastery. Narcissists live on attention. It does not matter whether that attention comes as praise, admiration, or even anger directed toward them. To them, attention is a kind of fuel, often called narcissistic supply. Without it, their sense of importance begins to collapse. Imagine a fire. It cannot burn without oxygen. In the same way, a narcissist cannot maintain their inflated sense of self without constant recognition from others. They crave this validation not because they are strong, but because deep down they are fragile. Their confidence is a mask, a thin layer hiding a deeper insecurity. They seek out situations where they can shine, control, or provoke. Every argument, every compliment, every sigh of frustration from you. Each one feeds the image they want to believe about themselves. If you notice, when you stop giving them attention, their energy shifts. They become restless, almost desperate, as if you've taken away the very thing that sustains them. This is why they push boundaries and stir conflict, because even negative attention feels like power to them. To understand this is to see clearly. When you stop providing supply, you hold a quiet power. You are removing the air from the fire, and what is left is their own emptiness struggling to survive. Confronting a narcissist feels natural. You want to defend yourself, correct their lies, and call out their behavior. But what often happens? Instead of listening, they twist your words, deny responsibility, or turn the conversation back on you. In trying to win the argument, you find yourself pulled deeper into their world. Confrontation becomes the trap they set, and you walk straight into it. Narcissists thrive in conflict because it keeps the focus on them. Your energy, your anger, your reasoning, all of it feeds their need to dominate. The more you explain, the more they manipulate. The more you resist, the more they push. Even when you think you've made a solid point, they can find a way to reframe it, leaving you frustrated and doubting yourself. This is why so many people walk away from encounters with narcissists feeling drained, even when they believed they stood their ground. The Stoics often warned about being dragged into battles that cannot be won. They taught that anger with the wrong person is like wrestling with mud. You get dirty, and the mud remains. Confronting a narcissist often works the same way. You pour out your energy, but the ground never changes. Instead, the confrontation serves only to keep you bound to them, stuck in cycles that go nowhere. To recognize this trap is the first step toward escaping it. You see that fighting them on their terms does not free you, it binds you tighter. Silence is not weakness. It is a deliberate act of strength, a choice to step away from the game instead of playing it. When you ignore a narcissist, you are not giving up. You are refusing to offer them the attention they demand. This is the power of silence. It shifts control back into your hands. The Stoics understood this well. Marcus Aurelius wrote that we are disturbed not by what others do, but by how we choose to respond. When someone insults you, your reaction decides whether the insult has power. By staying calm and withholding attention, you cut the chain that ties you to their chaos. Silence becomes a shield, not a surrender. For a narcissist, silence is unbearable. They expect drama, arguments, explanations, anything that keeps you engaged. Ignoring them creates a void they cannot fill. It forces them to face themselves without distraction, something they often cannot endure. Silence leaves them unsettled because it is beyond their control. It takes discipline to stay silent, especially when every part of you wants to respond, to defend, to prove a point. But in choosing silence, you demonstrate mastery over yourself. You are saying, "I will not waste my energy where it bears no fruit." Silence, then, is not passive. It is active resistance, and it cuts deeper than any word you could ever speak. When you ignore a narcissist, you touch the very core of their insecurity. For them, being unseen or unheard feels like erasure. They have built their entire identity on external validation, so when that source disappears, it feels like their world is collapsing. What you see on the surface, anger, manipulation, or desperate attempts to pull you back in, is often a mask hiding their deep fear of insignificance. Psychologically, ignoring them creates a kind of withdrawal. Just as a person addicted to a substance experiences distress when it's taken away, the narcissist experiences anxiety when their supply of attention runs dry. They may lash out, project blame, or suddenly act as if they need you more than ever. But beneath the performance is pain, because your silence exposes the truth they try to hide. Their self-image is fragile and unstable. For someone who thrives on control, being ignored is a sharp blow. It denies them the ability to dictate the terms of the relationship. They cannot manipulate silence. They cannot twist it into praise or argument. All they are left with is the discomfort of themselves, and for many narcissists, that is unbearable. This is why ignoring often hurts more than confrontation. Words can be argued against, accusations can be deflected, and even insults can be turned into fuel. But silence offers no foothold. It leaves them face to face with the emptiness they spend their lives trying to cover. In that space, their power begins to unravel. History shows us again and again that silence can be more powerful than retaliation. Take Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher. He was slandered, criticized, and betrayed, yet he rarely wasted energy on answering every insult. Instead, he chose calm indifference, understanding that his worth was not decided by the noise of others. His restraint was not weakness, it was power. By refusing to respond, he denied his enemies the satisfaction of seeing him shaken. This principle has echoed across time. Leaders, thinkers, and even entire movements have found strength in non-response. Consider how many revolutions in history gained momentum not through violent retaliation, but through the refusal to give oppressors the reaction they expected. Silence, patience, and calm persistence often spoke louder than anger ever could. When applied to dealing with narcissists, this lesson is striking. They want conflict the way a fire wants fuel. Responding in anger is like throwing more wood onto the flames. But withholding response is like removing the air. In the end, the fire cannot sustain itself without it. This is why silence, though difficult, becomes a profound act of strength. It mirrors the wisdom of those before us who refuse to let others dictate their inner state. To ignore a narcissist is not just a strategy. It is part of a timeless tradition of power through restraint. In silence, you are not defeated. You are standing in the same quiet strength that has carried countless souls through storms of manipulation and noise. Words have limits. You can argue, explain, or defend yourself endlessly, But a narcissist can always twist language to their advantage. They can deny, distort, or dismiss what you say, turning your truth into another opportunity for control. This is why confrontation often feels like shouting into the wind. But silence is different. It cannot be argued with, it cannot be twisted, and it cannot be used against you. When you withhold words, you take away the very tool they rely on. Silence is firm, unshakable, and absolute. It forces the narcissist to sit with a void they cannot manipulate. In that emptiness, they are confronted with their own lack of control. For someone who craves dominance, this is deeply unsettling. Silence tells them, without speaking, that they no longer hold the power to provoke or direct your emotions. This is why ignoring can hurt more than anything you could say. Insults can be brushed off, arguments can be reframed, but silence leaves no escape. It lingers, pressing against their need for validation, reminding them that your attention is not theirs to command. Silence is not nothing. It is presence without submission, distance without weakness. The Stoics believed that strength lies not in how loudly you answer, but in how little you need to answer at all. By choosing silence, you remind the narcissist of the one truth they cannot bear. They are not in control of you. And in that realization, they feel a deeper wound than any confrontation could ever deliver. Staying silent in the face of provocation is not easy. The urge to respond can be overwhelming. When a narcissist attacks your character or spreads lies, every instinct tells you to defend yourself, to set the record straight. But this is the very reaction they want. They thrive when you take the bait. To withhold your response requires discipline, patience, and a commitment to something greater than the fleeting satisfaction of argument. The challenge of silence is that it feels unnatural. Humans are wired to react when threatened. Our pride wants to be heard, our fear wants protection, and our anger wants release. In ignoring a narcissist, you must resist all three at once. You must accept that you will be misunderstood and even misrepresented without rushing to fix it. This is where the real strength lies, not in controlling them, but in mastering yourself. When ignored, narcissists often escalate their behavior. They may insult louder, press harder, or seek new ways to get under your skin. This is their attempt to break your silence and drag you back into their orbit. And this is where many people falter, because the pressure builds until they finally give in and respond. That one reaction, however small, rewards the narcissist with exactly what they wanted all along: your attention. True silence, then, is more than not speaking. It is choosing not to feed their need for control, even when it costs you comfort. It is standing firm while the storm rages, holding to the wisdom that peace is not won by noise, but by restraint. Ignoring a narcissist is powerful, but it is not a solution for every situation. There are times when silence alone is not enough, and recognizing those limits is just as important as practicing restraint. For example, if you are co-parenting with a narcissist, complete silence is impossible. Children require communication, and responsibilities cannot be ignored. In such cases, silence must be balanced with clear, firm boundaries. You may not be able to avoid every interaction, but you can limit the emotional fuel you provide. The same applies in a workplace setting. If your boss or colleague is manipulative, ignoring them completely may harm your career or create bigger conflicts. In these situations, the strategy shifts. Instead of giving in to every demand or exploding in confrontation, you engage only when necessary, using short, neutral responses that provide no emotional leverage. This approach is sometimes called the gray rock method, making yourself as uninteresting and unreactive as possible so that their attempts to provoke fall flat. It is also worth noting that ignoring is not a replacement for safety. If a narcissist becomes abusive or dangerous, silence alone will not protect you. Practical steps, support systems, and in some cases legal action may be required. Ignoring works best as a tool for preserving your peace, not as a shield against genuine harm. The key is discernment. Know when silence is strength, and know when silence needs to be paired with boundaries, strategy, or outside help. To ignore wisely is not to withdraw blindly, but to choose carefully when and how to withdraw your energy so that it serves your freedom, not your harm. The hardest part of ignoring a narcissist is not what they do, but what rises within you. When someone lies about you, mocks you, or provokes you, your pride demands a response. You feel the need to defend your reputation, to prove your worth, to show that you are not weak. This inner battle is often fiercer than the external one because it is your own emotions calling you to fight. The Stoics warned about this very thing. They taught that the greatest enemy is not the insult itself, but the anger it stirs in you. Anger chains you to the one who provoked it, giving them power over your mind. To master yourself is to break that chain. Ignoring a narcissist, then, becomes less about punishing them and more about freeing yourself. It is the practice of choosing peace over pride, clarity over chaos. When you refuse to react, you are training your mind to let go of the need for external approval. You are learning that you do not have to chase every false word or defend against every attack. Your worth is not decided by the noise of others, but by the steadiness of your own soul. This is why ignoring is not passive. It is active discipline. Each time you choose silence over reaction, you strengthen your ability to remain calm in the face of provocation. You are teaching yourself that freedom comes not from controlling others, but from mastering the storm inside. In this way, ignoring a narcissist is as much about your own growth as it is about limiting theirs. Ignoring a narcissist is not just about denying them fuel, it is about protecting your peace. When you refuse to engage, you save yourself from the endless cycle of arguments, accusations, and manipulation that drain your energy. Instead of being pulled into their chaos, you create space for calm. You begin to see how much lighter life feels when you are no longer tied to their constant demands for attention. Peace is found in choosing where you place your focus. Every time you argue back, you hand over a piece of your attention, and with it, your inner balance. But when you stay silent, you keep that balance for yourself. Your mind clears. You begin to hear your own thoughts again. You are no longer consumed by rehearsing comebacks or defending yourself against lies. You step out of their storm and stand in stillness. The Stoics often said that true freedom is not having everything go your way, but being unmoved when it doesn't. Ignoring a narcissist puts this wisdom into practice. It means you are no longer ruled by their behavior, no longer reacting like a puppet to every pull of their strings. Your peace becomes yours to guard, not theirs to disrupt. And as you protect this peace, something deeper happens. You start to realize that silence is not only a weapon, but also a sanctuary. It is the space where you recover, where you grow stronger, where you decide what deserves your energy and what does not. In that space, you reclaim control over your own life. Ignoring a narcissist does not mean simply disappearing. It requires strategy, patience, and a steady hand. One of the most effective approaches is the grey rock method. This means becoming uninteresting, unresponsive, and emotionally flat. When they provoke you, you reply with short, neutral answers. No explanations, no justifications, no visible reactions. Over time, the lack of stimulation makes you less appealing as a target. They want drama, and you give them none. Another strategy is limiting contact. If you cannot cut them off completely, you can reduce the opportunities they have to reach you. This may mean not answering every message, avoiding unnecessary interactions, or creating firm routines that do not allow them to intrude. The less access they have, the less power they hold. Redirecting your attention is also key. When you stop feeding them energy, you need to place that energy somewhere else, into your growth, your work, your relationships, or your peace. By focusing on what nourishes you instead of what drains you, you build resilience against their attempts to pull you back. Consistency matters most. Narcissists often test boundaries to see if your silence will break. They may escalate, manipulate, or act desperate to draw you in. If you give in even once, they learn that persistence works. But if you remain steady, their tactics lose strength. The discipline of ignoring is not in a single moment, but in the long endurance of refusing to play their game. With each step, you reclaim your time, your focus, and your freedom. When you begin to ignore a narcissist, the first signs that it's working often look like resistance. They may grow louder, more dramatic, or even desperate. This is not proof that you are failing, it is proof that they feel the loss of control. Like a drowning person flailing harder when they sense the water rising, a narcissist often escalates when their supply begins to run out. Over time, the changes become clearer. They might cycle through tactics, anger, guilt, charm, trying to discover which one will pull you back in. When none succeed, frustration builds. Their attempts at manipulation may start to look clumsy, their once confident control over you weakening. In some cases, they may even search for new sources of attention elsewhere, because your silence has made you too costly to pursue. The most important sign, however, is the shift within yourself. You notice you are no longer exhausted after every encounter. The weight of constantly anticipating their next move begins to lift. You stop rehearsing arguments in your mind or replaying conversations long after they've ended. Instead, you find yourself calmer, more centered, less bound to their chaos. This inner freedom is the clearest evidence that ignoring is working. The Stoics taught that peace of mind is the ultimate victory. When ignoring a narcissist, the measure of success is not how much they suffer, but how much freer you become. If your silence leaves you stronger, steadier, and more at peace, then you have already won. Their frustration is only the echo of the control they no longer have over you. Ignoring a narcissist does more than protect you. It teaches you. Each time you choose silence over reaction, you practice the art of self-control. You learn that your peace does not depend on how others treat you, but on how you decide to respond. This is a lesson that reaches beyond dealing with narcissists. It shapes the way you live. Patience becomes one of the first lessons. Silence requires you to sit with discomfort, to endure the urge to react, and to trust that you lose nothing by not responding. Discipline is the second lesson. You discover the strength of holding firm when pressed, the power of consistency even when provocation feels unbearable, and self-respect is the third. By refusing to be baited, you affirm that your energy is valuable, that your time and attention are not gifts to be squandered. The Stoics believed that true power is not the ability to control others, but the ability to control yourself. When you ignore a narcissist, you embody this principle. You show that you do not need to win every argument or prove every point. Your strength lies in the choice to rise above, to live untangled from their chaos. In the end, ignoring is not only a strategy against manipulation, it is a practice of freedom. It trains you to detach from the noise of others, to recognize the limits of your responsibility, and to live with dignity even in the face of provocation. The greatest lesson it teaches is this: you do not need their attention to prove your worth. Confronting a narcissist feels natural, but it rarely brings peace. They twist words, thrive on drama, and feed on every reaction you give. Ignoring them, though difficult, strikes at the heart of their need for control. Silence starves them of attention, leaving them restless, frustrated, and face to face with the emptiness they try so hard to hide. What seems like doing nothing is, in truth, an act of quiet power. We have seen how ignoring cuts deeper than confrontation because it cannot be twisted or used against you. It removes the fuel that keeps their fire burning. We have seen that it protects your peace, creating space for clarity and strength. And we have seen that it teaches discipline, patience, and the wisdom of choosing restraint over reaction. This does not mean silence is always easy, nor that it replaces boundaries where they are needed. But as a principle, it reminds you that your energy is yours to guard. You do not have to spend it on battles that cannot be won. You do not have to answer every insult or correct every lie. The true victory lies in mastering yourself, not in defeating them. The Stoics believed that strength is found not in the noise of reaction, but in the calm of self-control. When you ignore a narcissist, you are practicing that same timeless wisdom. You are proving that their chaos does not define your peace. And in that choice, you discover a deeper truth. Silence, far from being weakness, can be the most powerful response of all. If this helped you see the power of silence, watch my next video where I share more ways to protect your peace and take back control of your life.